Welcome back to That Rugby podcast, hosted by the Rugby Booth. Your boy Luke, your boy Husey. Look, Super Rugby final. Done, dusted. Fucking Crusaders have won it again. Are we surprised? It's the inevitable. No. We always end up here.
No. Fuck the Crusaders, and you know what as well? Fuck the Chiefs as well, man. Like, you had a shot there. You had a shot and you fucking blew it. You fucking blew it. Obviously the Crusaders played extremely well, as they always do at home. But Chiefs blew it as well. The Chiefs had chances. They couldn't take advantage of them. And that is a credit to the Crusaders as well. And they're stacked I wouldn't even say stacked. Like you look at the Crusaders, they've got good players there, but it's not like, previous Crusaders teams we've seen where they're just bursting at the seams with talent, oozing All Blacks left, right, and center. Yes, they got All Blacks in the squad, but it's not like, they're the Crusaders of years past where they're basically, the All Blacks light. It's pretty incredible how consistently amazing the Crusaders are able to be, no matter who's the coach, no matter who's playing for them. It speaks to the stability of the organization. But as well, the Chiefs 3 years in a row coming second, like fucking hell, that's got to be painful.
That's got to be one of the rougher ones, especially like you look at it and you go, the fact that this Chiefs team hasn't won a title is just mental. Like, you look at the team they've got, that you start to piece together the pieces and you're just like, what the fuck has happened? Like, you look at it first 3 years ago when they hosted the Crusaders. Sorry, 2 years ago when they hosted the Crusaders. Last year, had to go to the Blues, was a tough one. You take those one on the head. This one again, as you said, they had their chances to win it and just couldn't get it done. And when you look at the storyline,
twice this year.
Exactly. You look at the Blues loss. That's where they lost it. Like, as many people said in my reaction video, you just can't let the Crusaders host a final. They do not lose at home in finals time. 32-0. That's one of the craziest streaks in all of sports worldwide. And you just can't let that happen in the Chiefs.
The Chiefs really are the ultimate gentleman's team, because they're always coming second.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
On the game as well, and we've got to mention it as well, 13 titles in 28 years of Super Rugby as a whole, 2 years of anonymity with fucking COVID and stuff like that. They still won 2 titles in that year, something. They've got like 15 titles, but 13 out of 28. I looked into it. They made 4 finals where they lost as well. So they've made 17 finals out of 28 years. And I think it was like 3 or 4 more times they made the semi-finals. So 28 out of 21, we're looking at a 75% chance that this Crusaders team every single year will make the semi-finals at a bare minimum. And then you're looking at a 50% chance of them winning the final realistically. I know it's just under rounding up, but 50% chance of winning a final is just fucking insane when you have had from 12 to 14 to 18 to back to 12 to 11 teams. It doesn't matter how many teams we put in the competition, they find a way to win this Crusaders team.
Well, yes, it's unfortunate. What I think we need to do, and there's been a lot of chat about this recently, is we need to bring the South African teams back and just send the Crusaders on extended South African road trips, that seems to be the only way that they lose, or have a really dominant Australia team and make them play in Australia, right? Cannot let the Crusaders host finals, right? You have to finish above them in the rankings. This is what, bringing in back the South African teams is good. Spreads out the competition, allows other teams to build up better records as well. I've heard there's been chatter of it from all over. So maybe it is picking up steam behind the scenes. It'd be interesting to see, but because I think it'd be, personally, I'm in favor of the move. I know you might not be, but I'm personally in favor of the move because it speaks to more teams in the competition. It's more interesting, and it gives us more exposure to South African rugby, which we do need in order to compete with the South African team internationally.
No, I'm in favour of the move. I would love South African rugby back in Super Rugby. We're not going to get it. Like, I don't think in a world I see now, commercially is it viable for South African rugby teams are making enough money as it is to be commercially viable in the URC. It suits their time zones. It suits their screens. They get entrance into European rugby. They get the best of both worlds. Like, right now, why would they? They got given an opportunity. They took it. Again, There isn't a world where I don't see some Super Rugby teams being based out of South Africa. I see a world where the Cheetahs or like the Kings or something like that, and then you start to test those alliances of to URC and stuff like that. I see a world where that happens. I don't see a world where the Bulls, Sharks, Stormers, Lions willingly leave the URC to select Super Rugby. And that's my issue when this always gets brought up. I don't... We all talk about it like it's this great thing that can happen, and like, you know, Northern journalists talk about it as well. We're not the decision makers. South African rugby are the decision makers. Currently, they have. Why wouldn't they keep doing this when they have the best of both worlds? Because they can play European rugby and then the Rugby Championship where they get New Zealand and Australia. So I don't see it happening, but I do. I think it would be great for Super Rugby. Again, we've chucked South African sides at the Crusaders. It doesn't seem to matter. Maybe this American expansion is what we need for something, you know, like something like that, just to stop them in their moment, because they're just too good. And again, we can talk quickly on
relocate them to America. You know, that way they can even if they win lots of titles, at least they're winning it over in America, and we're like building up American support for rugby. So at least it's accomplishing something, you know, other than another trophy for the cabinet for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the game itself, defensive slugfest. Again, Will Jordan just showed why he is so world class. Like, I sit here and I praise Cam Roigard as being the best halfback in the world. Will Jordan is building into being the best fullback in the world, what he did in Super Rugby this season. And just in that final alone, his high ball contestables, his ability to run. A lot of people have talked like the fullback position is moving, and I saw a TikTok on this as well recently, where fullback position is becoming more and more of a playmaker, second playmaker, and we've lost those Christian Cullens, you know, even Joe Ross, the guys that break the line and just dominate the game like that in open play. Jason Robinson's going, I can keep going. Will Jordan's very much that. Again, he's got playmaking abilities, but he doesn't slot in as like, he will never play 10. Again, you've got those hybrid 12-10s. Thomas Ramos, one of them, an example. He won't ever do that, and Marcus Smith. No, I can keep going with these examples, but
yes,
Will Jordan
there's a lot out there.
Out and out. There's an out and out 15, and it's really good to see. And he's dominating in the game. So again, I saw that. As far as I'm concerned, I mentioned it. They won the kicking battle, which won them the game. They won the kicking battle and they won the up front battle. And those two things at the moment, we always talk about it. Games won up front, they won it up front, and then they won the kicking battle. And then, as I mentioned as well in recent Instagram, TikTok, defense is what wins championships.
I speaking of that TikTok, Instagram reel, I really like the point you made about winning the air ball. And this is something we're seeing not just in rugby union, but in rugby league as well. If you go back to State of Origin, any game with the Parramatta Eels and Zach Lomax in it, half the plays, when they kick the ball high, Lomax is there chasing the ball and making a contestable catch, and it forces the opposition into difficult points. We see it all the time in international rugby, and speaking from a Wallabies perspective, we see it all the time against the Wallabies, because until recently, they haven't had someone who could take a high ball after Izzy Folau left. Let's be real. The ability to get up underneath the high ball has been, severely lacking from Australian backs. Now,
I was about to say Izzy Folau was just ahead of his time. Like, he really was, wasn't he? You look at it and you go, if he was in today's day and age with his ability to leap, continue. I know your point you're about to make as well. So
it's great. It's good to see that the Wallabies have got Suaalii in there to get those high balls now, because we've been picked on so often underneath the high ball, and it is going to be, I guarantee it's going to be a feature of the Lions series and the Rugby Championship.
Yeah, and it voices your opinion, and starting to really turn into my opinion now as well, that Joseph Suaalii needs to play fullback. You look at that size of that body, you saw what Will Jordan just did. You aren't winning those contests against Suaalii. If he can nail down taking those high balls like we know he can, he's going to absolutely tear teams apart, offensively and defensively. Like, as I said, I watched the Premiership final, and I just sat there and I went, Bath won the air battle, and that's exactly what we just saw from Will Jordan. I think we'll see from Suaalii, and is going to be a massive advantage for you guys.
Well, let's speak about Suaalii and the Wallabies squad wider now. Now, there's some big inclusions and some big exclusions here. Before we get onto who's in the team, I want to talk about two players who aren't in the team. One who I think definitely deserves to be in there, and one who I would have liked to see in there, but I can understand why they weren't included. The player who I think deserves to be there and who isn't included, and who I think is the hardest done by player in all of Australian rugby, is Ryan Lonergan. You cannot tell me that Nick White has had a better season than Ryan Lonergan. Ryan Lonergan and the Brumbies got to the semi-finals, right? They got further than any other Australian team this year, and Ryan Lonergan was a big reason why. Nick White had a better year than he had last year, but he is still not as good as Ryan Lonergan is. Now, I get it. You want some experience in there. That's why you've got Jake Gordon. Tate McDermott is experienced enough by now at international level. I don't think you need Nick White in the squad. I really don't. I really don't see the benefit of it. Referees fucking hate him. All right. He is an anti-referee player. He's hostile to referees. There are highlight clips. Like I saw a 2024 best of referee interactions with players thing, and one of the first clips on there was a referee telling Nick, not today, Nick, not today, and telling him to go away. So I don't get why Nick White's in there and Ryan Lonergan isn't. Ryan Lonergan has had an amazing season. He's improved across the board. He's a tough player as well. I just don't get why Nick White's in there over him. The second player who I would have liked to have seen in there and who isn't in there is Samu Kerevi. Now, I think Kerevi's had a good season, but I think being in Japanese rugby has hurt his potential to be in the Wallabies squad. In fact, I don't think I see anyone in this list who is who's playing Japanese rugby this year. No, I think the only international player that's been included in the squad is Will Skelton. Yeah, so I think that's hurt him. I think he had a better year than Hunter Paisami did, and should have been in over Hunter Paisami. But at the same time, I can see, it's hard to judge in the context of Japanese rugby. A part of it now is, okay, this almost certainly cements Suaalii as playing in the centres, which, as we've just said, we don't want to see. However, I could also see Filippo Daunguno at outside centre, which he has played this year, with Len Ikitau at inside as well. And then you have Tom Wright, Jorgensen wings, Suaalii fullback. That's what I'd like to see. I don't think that's what we're going to see. I am actually happy that Lolesio is in the squad. I thought Schmidt might have ruled him out because he's transferring away. Same with Langi Gleeson, but they're both in the team. Gleeson, I'm still not sold on. Similar to Paisami, they had too many flaws at international level. Gleeson's most glaring one is his hands. It's not acceptable, and that is Australian rugby's Achilles heel has been turnovers, right, for years and years. And last year we finally were improving, but handling errors, I'm not a fan of it. But look, we have got the Tizzano, McWright, Valentini possibility. Nick Champion de Crespigny is in the wider squad as well. Jorgensen is in the wider squad, despite missing most of the season with injury. Dylan Peach is in there, Harry Potter, Corey Toole. So obviously this is the wider squad, and there's going to be a lot of, cutting down from here. But you look across the board at the team, and it's very, very solid. And I'm very happy to see Will Skelton in the team.
Yeah. There's a few things I make of this squad. I think Schmidt is stuck with his guns, which is he's well and right to do what he kind of took a step forward again last year. They were looking very good at the end of the year tour. Again, we had dreams of a Grand Slam. Obviously didn't come to fruition, but was a much improved Wallaby squad than we've seen. So he's kind of pretty much selected very similar team, like two uncapped players with Nick Champion and Corey Toole.
That's it.
If I'm correct.
Corey Toole is technically capped. It says he's not in here as uncapped.
An Australian XV game or A games.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think he's played a proper test. Maybe he's played a game. Again, two of those players new to the squad. Everyone else very much in and about the squad, has been in and about a squad, has played 3 or 4 games. What stands out glaringly as well from the squad is what we can take away from it are the players that have been released to play the Western Force game from the Western Force. So that is Nick White, Dylan Peach, Darcy Swain, Tom Robertson, Nick the Champion, and that is it. So what that stands out, those 5 probably aren't going to be in the squad come the first test unless something happens. I look at it then and I go, are we that much closer to Carlos Tizzano and McWright back row? Because again, if you weren't thinking about Tizzano being in and around the squad, you'd let him play this game because he's 5 games for Australia. He's one of the newer players in the Wallabies kind of setup. Harry Potter's position in the team must be very close because they're not letting him play that again. Similar position, only 2 games in there as well. Makes it for me. It makes me think Jake Gordon's going to start and probably captain with Tate McDermott off the bench. Very much so. Ben Donaldson not being released opens up questions about who's going to be the backup fly half because you would have thought if they wanted Ben Donaldson to get game time, stuff like that. So seeing all of this, it's excitement levels have been able to start to go, this is what rugby and Lions 2 is about. You start to just, all you're doing is thinking about rugby because you're like, what could happen here? What could happen there? Look, I think you're right. I think they go Ikitau, Suali'i as your centres. I think that's your 2 best. I think they go right at fullback and then wingers you can select out of all those wingers.
Jorgensen, Dalgun or Jorgensen Callaway, you'd think.
Even Potter had a good enough season to definitely That's the thing. You're not weak on the wing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think Jake Gordon selects himself. I think Noel Leosio. And talking on Leosio and Gleeson as well, you mentioned it quickly. I just want to double down. I think Schmidt's right for this, and as you kind of said, but I think these guys are young players still. If they go overseas, there's still an opportunity that they come back better players. We've seen it with Poriki. We've seen it with Nick White. Like, going overseas doesn't end your Wallabies career. It can turn you into a better player for 2-3 years, and then you can come back. I think that opportunity, especially for Gleeson, Lolosio's a bit different. Maybe getting out of the Wallabies environment for a couple of years and coming back will turn him into a better player. And so, what Schmidt said is, these are our guys. We're sticking to them. They're the ones. These are the 3 up-and-coming fly halves that are best for Australian rugby right now and going forward. And what that might look like for Lolosio especially is, depending on how many games has he played, 29. Again, depending on rule selection and how that changes, Rugby World Cup comes around, if he's playing good rugby in Japanese League 1, whatever happens, could potentially see him selected there as well.
It's also like a sign to these players of like a little bit of like loyalty and that the door's always open. It's not like, okay, we're slamming the Wallabies door in your face, whatever. So they might just stay overseas. It's like saying, hey, your ability, we believe in your ability, we believe in you. Go play over there, enjoy yourself, make some money, but the door's always open. We would take you back, kind of thing. I think that's an important relationship keeper as well. And I think what we're seeing from this, I think Schmidt's playing a very smart game here by only picking one international player, because what he's showing is that we don't need to pick a lot of international players. So maybe then the rule will get relaxed because, okay, well, we're not consistently picking 3 international players every time. Players will just go overseas, well, X, Y, and Z. We're showing this benefit to staying here. Let's relax the rules a little bit so that, if we get into a situation where some of our best players are overseas, we at least have the flexibility, but we know it's not going to happen every time because Australian rugby is able to rely on the local talent as well. So I think it's a bit of psychology going on from Schmidt as well. Yeah,
totally. And again, interesting as well when they release these information. Unavailable for selection due to injury, Charlie Cale, Massimio De Lutis and Liam Wright, all 3 of them, again, obviously still getting considered. And then the wider training squad's members selected while the players remain in Perth, so from that team. Tane Edmund, so again, although not a Waratah anymore. David Faloi from the Reds, Derby Lancaster, Ryan Lonergan, so he is in and around there. Isaac Kalia, Matt Phillip, and again, they give a good example of someone who's gone overseas, doors still open, come back, and Rory Scott. Yeah, look, I mean, there's not a lot of shocks. I think the biggest shock is the fact that Ryan Lonergan, and I think that's across all of Australia. It's kind of like, why Nick White? When you've got someone like, you've said, Gordon, who's played 30 games, 8 who's played 40 games, do you need Nick White who's played 70? Or what is it? Was it better? But again, it's a British and Irish Lions series. You get one of these every 12 years. You got to select a team that you think is going to win. Is it time to give someone their debut? Like Lonergan will definitely feature for the Brumbies when they play against them. Will be a good chance, I imagine, to get in that Anzac Australia, New Zealand 15, like stuff like that. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for that Lions tour still for them. But yeah, look, talking about the Lions, wow, got off to a shocker to start with.
Yeah,
lost to Argentina. Did you lick your lips a little bit, bud?
Well, I did. I did. I even messaged you after that. But again, this is, for me, setting aside my Wallabies fandom here, this is again showing if there was ever any doubt why Argentina is ascending as a tier 1 team. This is again showing that Argentina they're quite often disregarded in a lot of top international rugby conversations. They are a powerhouse team, and Checo is not coaching them anymore, as well. So it's showing that the system they're building as well is solid. It's hard to differ between them and the French, who's the best in open field creative play. Between them and the French, you watch them with those long range tries, and it's just beautiful watching them play. Everyone saw that try with the fake kick and the sprinting upfield, all the support runners and the little grubber kick at the end. It was fantastic. I think the Lions were pretty shocked by they all of course there's always first match jitters. That's why you have that pre-tour match. But I think it is a big bell of confidence for the Wallabies to be like, okay, Argentina's a good team. We're as good as Argentina. We split with them last year, right? Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do this. Maybe it's starting to bring a little bit of that belief into the Wallabies team. It's opened up a door of possibilities,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And I would say as well, doubling down on it, there's a few things that you saw in that game.
Doubling down because they played in Ireland? Very funny.
That Schmidt will have been licking his lips as well. Like, he would have seen that line out and gone, look, these Argies, they're good, but they're not that good at disturbing lineouts. They ain't got a Will Skelton. They ain't chucking up a Will Skelton. A behemoth going up in the air.
Jeremy Williams is very good at line-out time as well, as
exactly.
is Nick Frost.
So you go, we can see that, we can target that. Scrum wasn't dominant or destructive, but again, very good for a first hit out. Again, the cohesion isn't quite there. I know they were missing players from the URC. No, none of the Leinster lads that have played that game. So they're still missing players. But again, that team on paper, you would have gone 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, should have been in that Argentina team. So, it's still not there yet.
Did you see the sneaky scrum tactic the Lions were pulling with their flanker? I think it's, I don't know if it's Tom Curry or if it's another flanker, but what they would do when they started to lose a scrum is their open side flanker, he'd stay bound, but he'd slide up the ruck and hit into his opposite flanker number and try and disturb his bind and the sort of the second row and the front row bind there. It's not technically illegal what he's doing, but he's not in the position he's supposed to be in, and it is he actually made shoulder to head contact with his opposite flanker, so that should be a penalty. But both times it went uncalled by the referee, and it disrupted the Argentinian scrum enough that the Lions were able to get penalties off the back of it. So I think Schmidt will be watching out for that and coaching his players against that, because it is something as well that the Irish national team do. So this is definitely an Andy Farrell special.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't see it. Scrum time comes and I kind of try not to switch off, but I do.
Classic fly half. Yeah.
I'm like, when does the ball come out? Okay, cool. Look, again, I think it builds up nicely. As you said, I think if they had gone and run right against Argentina, it would have been like, look, they're going to go to Australia and thump them. Now it goes, whoa. Australia a real chance. Like, there were too many good players in that British and Irish Lions team to not come away with a win. You look at that centre combo, you look at that 4-pack, I go, they should have won that game and they didn't. And that's the thing. All that British Irons and Lions series comes down to is winning. It doesn't matter how you win. It doesn't matter. All that matters, you get one shot every 12 years to win it. And so, like, I saw that and I went, good teams win. We always say it. Good teams find a way to win. We've sat here and fucking watched the Crusaders do it for long enough. Good teams find ways to win. British and Irish Lions, are they a good team? We don't know yet.
How about that Ellis Genge run as well, though? He is. Yeah, I picked him out ages ago as one of my players to watch for the Lions and just one of the best players in international rugby. And yeah, he is a man mountain.
Him and Angus Bell on the rugby field at the same time is just that gives props heart attacks. because they see that and they go, props aren't meant to be able to move that fast. They're not meant to do what those two can do, and they fucking do it all right. Those two go head-to-head as well as each other. All right, mate, look, we're a week away from the first game of the Lions series again against Perth, against the Force, but 2 weeks away against first test. Run me through your thoughts in that first test where you're seeing it going.
3 weeks. 3 weeks away.
3 weeks, sorry.
Yeah.
3 weeks away from the first test. Run me through your thoughts, where it's going, what you're feeling at the moment, the jitters, the emotions.
Yeah, so it's in Brisbane as well, which is always a Wallabies heartland as well. I feel like hopeful. I'm very, very much feeling hopeful about it. I really want to see this test against Fiji. Like, I think that's going to be such a gauge for the Wallabies. So that's next Sunday. And it's going to be a really physical game as well, which I think will obviously there's potential for injuries, but I think it will also like get the team in the mood, like know the level of physicality that's going to be required. Like, I'd much rather a physical slugfest against Fiji than a romp in the park against Japan. Like, as much as of a confidence booster as that would be, I'd rather have a slugfest against Fiji where we barely scrape by. Like, you learn how to win in those games. Get all the mistakes out there, or even better, don't have any mistakes. Play good rugby and get those combinations going. Nervous but excited. It's the Lions series. It's once every 12 years for each of these countries, once every 4 years in rugby generally. Yeah, I'm just excited. I remember going to the last Lions series, went and saw the Waratahs play the Lions, but the Waratahs nearly won, and that was one of the most exciting games I've been at. So, yeah, I'm very excited for the series.
Yeah, I mean, it kicks off next Saturday, so we'll be back again next week to run you through everything that's happened in that game against the Western Force. We'll be looking into potentially as well what we think the selection might look like going forward for the Wallabies, any other news, so on and so forth. For now, I've been Luke, that has been Husey. We've been That Rugby Podcast. We'll catch you again next time. See you later. Goodbye.